Oh, hi guys. I thought we could talk a little bit about Boris Johnson today and why he's kind of been successful as a politician. So we're going to look at a few different strategies he's used. Okay, it's going to be good. Just going to be awesome, guys. Okay. Here's a clip of
Any
him,
moment now
guys.
we'll be celebrating with the fly past of the National Police Air Service, so we'll just wait a moment on them.
So yeah, here he is. He's trying to put up his banana. Look at the concentration on his face. So he's got his umbrella up. He offers it to Priti Patel and just like, no, keep that thing away from me. It's just, and he overdoes it. Of course, like, I just think that's the best freaking clip, guys. Okay, that clip was basically a bit of fun, but to also illustrate a bit of Boris's kind of popular buffoonery. He is kind of a bit clumsy, and I guess this kind of makes him memorable and kind of makes him stand out. But let's get on to a bit of analysis, I guess. So, okay, Britain is in social decline, I feel. For the average person, the living standards haven't really gone up in Britain in the past 20 years. If anything, they've kind of declined. And I also kind of feel that young people today probably have a lot less aspirations than previous generations. I don't know about other people, but things like getting a house, starting a family, getting a mortgage, and a lot of different jobs and whatnot seem a lot more difficult. I mean, for a start, for a lot more people in the UK, and house building has not kept up with the population growth. Really has not. So that's made the house prices rise, which if you're a bank and most of your assets are stored in property, you're laughing because the price has just gone through the sky. And if you know how banking works, you basically know that they can borrow more money and make more money if the value of their assets goes up. So the banks are really happy. I guess the rich are pretty happy too, because if they invest in property, the cost of the value of the property is going to go up too, so they're going to make a great return. But the people who suffer are the actual people who live here. I do actually wonder if perhaps we should move towards a model where you need to actually live in the UK for a certain amount of time if you want to buy property. But that's just crazy talk. I mean, why would people need houses for living in when they're such brilliant assets for banks? Okay, so back to Boris Johnson. There's a lot of pessimism, especially from the Labour Party. And when Boris Johnson was running against Jeremy Corbyn and Theresa May, I kind of messed up the time, I guess. You really got a lot of negativity from the Labour side. For example, they kind of didn't sound particularly patriotic. They didn't sound like they particularly liked the country, and they wanted radical change. And even though perhaps the UK has been stagnant or in decline in terms of prosperity for ordinary people, I don't think the gloomy message really got through, because there's the kind of spirit in Britain, you know, the sort of wartime spirit, which I think Boris Johnson kind of latches onto to a certain extent. The sort of, we'll get through this together, make do and mend, you know, all the sort of sloganeering which people really found appealing, I guess. Boris kind of embodies a lot of that. I think when Boris Johnson was at university, he must have read a lot of Churchill's speeches, because some of the sort of Churchillian grandeur kind of comes out in some of his speeches. He's also really good at debating, so put him on a stage in front of somebody else, like Prime Minister's questions, and he'll generally do a good job. And not only that, he'll get his own backbenchers and, you know, his own party cheering with him too. So, yeah, in sort of Punch and Judy, which is Prime Minister's questions, he generally does pretty well. He's also quite honest. He sounds quite honest, and he sounds quite convincing to the general public. Like I already said, he's pretty optimistic about Britain and the future, especially when he was London mayor. you really kind of got a sense that he loved London, and he was really trying to do the best he could. I think he got the London 2012 Olympics. He revolutionized the transport networks. He is a bit of a patriot for the UK. He's kind of quite British, isn't he? In a funny sort of way. Even if you don't like him, I'm sure you can agree he's probably more patriotic than the Labour Party was previously. He's also very hardworking and he's very smart, especially when he was London mayor. He would often work late into the night. I know a lot of people did. He's also got that kind of upper class confidence, I think, that people kind of respect. And his comedy kind of comes out of that because he can kind of laugh at himself when he does silly things. And I think his sort of, people call it buffoonery, makes him quite endearing. People kind of like that. I think they also like his sort of old-fashioned, slightly arcane and flamboyant language and way of speaking. I mean, when he was on a mayor, for example, he introduced the Boris bikes, busking licenses, vertical planted gardens, and I don't know, he sort of really revolutionized the capital in a lot of ways. He was I don't know. I think you need to have a big personality if you want to be London mayor, and he certainly did. So he, brought in a lot of incentives for green vehicles, and really redid the Olympic Village and the transport network. So I think a lot of his success he's sort of carried over, and I think you can't really talk about this on YouTube, but the let's just say that I think he handled it reasonably well. I know some people criticised him over the but yeah. So anyway, guys, I guess I'll leave it there. What do you think of the guy? Do you think he is a good prime minister? Who do you think would do a better job? Oh, and the last thing I should probably say is he's seems to have a really good cabinet. And I mean, not that I think he even cares about this stuff necessarily, but his cabinet has been a lot more ethnically diverse than Labour, for example. We've had two female prime ministers, both of them Conservatives at the moment, and Labour has obviously had zero. So even if you're sort of concerned about diversity and whatnot, it sort of seems the Conservatives are winning there, and they don't use any kind of quotas. They still sort of seem to more or less believe in the best person for the job, but nevertheless they seem to have a really good mix of people sort of coming through. But I think there's also the problem of classism, because a heck of a lot of people in government are middle and upper class, and a lot of them went to the same sort of schools, have the same sort of background. Similar kind of problem with the BBC. I once heard that if you go to Cambridge, for example, and you studied I don't know, sewage management or something, you're more likely to join the BBC than even if you did like a media degree at another university. So I mean, that's kind of a problem with the government, the civil service, the BBC, the establishment. They're very classist, I think, in a lot of ways, purely in demographics. And that's not saying that the people are bad necessarily. It just doesn't seem like there's much social mobility. Anyway, guys, hope you found that useful, and I will speak to you guys soon.